What is up, guys? JD here with another everyday carry video for you all. I hope you are all having a wonderful week and doing well today. Today I'm excited to do my review of the Spyderco Manix 2. My particular Manix is the coated 3.4 inch S30V blade steel. As you can see here, it's really nice. This is a Golden, Colorado, USA earth. This is the G10 variant. The handle length is 4.6 inches. That makes this a overall just over 8-inch knife. This knife is very beefy and a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. I was kind of expecting it to be more of like the Para 3, even though I know it was 3.4 inch blade. I was just expecting it to be a little bit different. Now, this is a reverse tip-up only blade, and that has to do with the fact that it has this compression lock system, which uses a axis style or crossbar style like deployment system. But the difference is this is actually riding on a compressed spring with a ball bearing, and I know there's no way you're going to be able to see that down in there. I don't think. I'm trying really hard to get the lighting just right. Maybe. Nah, I doubt it. Anyway, so you do have that ability to, and it's going to be really hard because I have not properly broken this in all the way, but it is going to be very similar to the Axis style locking system and the A-block system. It's going to require a little bit more wrist, and again, that's because I haven't broken it in. I did take a little pin through here and let it sit overnight. I did see on the internet that has helped reduce some of the strength of the spring, and I can't tell you if that honestly worked or not. You can get the reverse flick, you can get the thumb flick, and you can close it without having to do the whole, and you can open it without having to do all the fanciness. And I love the fact that when you're opening and you're closing the knife, that it keeps the hand out of the blade path. Now, the added hardware, so this here is to protect the system that they have in here. So the pin and the spring actually come into this back spacer here, and that's integrated in. They did a really good job not sacrificing any jimping. This jimping here actually comes up just a little bit. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So you can kind of see it has a little bit of jimping here, which helps with the ergonomics. Spyderco has the best jimping system. Now, I liked this because it was all black, but I'm now realizing during this review, it's actually going to be really difficult for you guys to see that jimping because of the black. But they carry it down into the finger choil as well for the choke up, so it, the grip on it is phenomenal. Because they have the added hardware and everything going on here, and this does feel like really thick and heavy duty. It is 5 ounces. So this here is probably not going to bother me. 5 ounces is like the end of my lightweight carry weight system. And again, that me being bigger and having probably more pocket space because I have more material on my jeans, etc. I definitely would not carry this to work. This is just too heavy for a work carry for me. I like it to be closer to that ultra lightweight under 3 ounce mark or around 3 ounces. But this here being 5 ounces, a little bit heavier than what I thought it was going to be, but it's not that bad. Now, the ergonomics, that is what's really impressive with this knife. It feels so good in hand. You can, choke up. You can have your thumb up on the jimping in this position. You can have the Gorilla Death Grip on it, and it's just so locked in hand. Like, this is crazy impressive because I think of probably my favorite Spyderco ergonomic knife is going to be the Paramilitary 2. Like, it fits me really well. I have double XL glove sized hands, and it works really well for me. This actually has a little bit more material going across the knife, which makes it kind of force my hand out a little bit more, just a touch, and really gives just I mean, the ergonomics are really, really good. I think probably because this variant is heavier, it probably isn't as popular, but check out the lightweight. I've seen Metal Complex do a review on the lightweight, talking about he's not big on plastic finished materials on his knives. He'll tell you that. You hear him, he likes the metals first and then these materials probably second, just observing from how he talks in his collection and what he has in it, and how he's talked about plastic finishes on handles, whether it's Gravity, FRN, GRN, whatever the nylon is. But he did say they did such a good job with the reverse grips on it and making it thinner and lighter and still feeling like it could be a hard use knife, that he was really surprised by how much he liked it. So he was very complimentary of it. For me, I did go with the G10 finish because I'm kind of interested in personalizing the knife, and the aftermarket's a little bit better for the G10 variants of Spyderco knives versus the FRN or the lightweight variants, which haven't been out as long, which is probably why there's not as much aftermarket for them, and probably because there's not as many people interested when they buy the lightweight and putting other materials on there that's going to add the weight back on. Anyway, that was a long rant. I'm really sorry. Let me go ahead and get into the usual suspects, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on the knives, even though I've talked a lot about it already. So first up is going to be the knife I was talking about a little bit earlier, which is the Paramilitary 2. I'm going to line these up from the pivot, and actually I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. And I'm going to bring these down just a touch, and I'm going to bring the camera down just a touch so that you guys can get a really good sense of how these knives are lining up. And I'm going to bring us in just a little bit too, so I'm sorry about the camera shaking. All right, so there we go. Bring it in just a little bit. I have to zoom all the way out. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'3", big hands, big arms. I got to be far away to be able to fit between the camera and the table, and I don't want to go out too far because then it's hard for you guys to see and appreciate all the details with the knives. But from the pivot, you can see the Paramilitary 2 just a touch longer in blade length, but the handle length is almost identical, just a touch longer on the Paramilitary 2. And you see what I was saying about how you have more belly here on the handle. I think that's why it makes, for me, this Manix 2 feel so good in hand. Let me go ahead and get their little brother out here. Here is the Para 3, and I'm going to line that up from the pivot, and as you can see, it's smaller. But the Para 3, if you look at the difference between the 2 and the 3, you can see how they've changed the design to really make this still feel good in hand, even though it's a smaller knife, and it's that 3-inch variety of pocket knife for that smaller EDC carry. Let me get a couple of the other usual suspects out here. Here is my Benchmade bug out. Sorry, I'm concentrating on the pivots to see if that's lined up. So you can see the Manix is clearly larger. And here is my Hogue Doug Ritter RSK MK. Oh man, I always forget what I always forget the full name. But anyway, you can see here that the Doug Ritter by Hogue is just a little bit bigger. It's a little bit longer in blade length, and the ergonomics from the grips and the hand scales are very similar. So the ergonomics between these two would be tough to call, because this is definitely one of my favorite folding knife ergonomics in that 3.5-inch mark. I love the way this feels in hand. This is just such a great knife. A lot of people are sleeping on that knife because that is 20 CV, G10 contoured. It gives you the able lock, designed by Doug Ritter. Great ergonomics, great blade shape, and that is a under $150 knife. You can find it out there on KnifeWorks. I think it's probably right at $149, I think is what that one's at. And the bug out here. So let me go ahead and do some profile comparisons. Oh, actually I have two more in case you don't own any of those knives. If you have an Elementum, that's for you right there, for my Civivi Elementum folks out there. So you can get a sense of the length, the size, the girth, the footprint, and everything like that. So everything that I've said about the other knives, same thing. Lined up in the pivots, you can see the length both on blade and handle, and where the Manix 2 lands versus the button lock in the the original, the OG Elementum. Let me go ahead and give you guys, get these guys out the way, and then I'll give you guys some profile comparisons. So first up, I'm only going to do the smaller, no, actually I'll do the Para 3. So you can see here, oh man, this dark color is making this hard. I will try to zoom in on this for you guys so that you can see that they're identical, and these are both factory scales. And then I will do the Doug Ritter, which you can see, if you look at it at the smallest point of the contouring, let me see if I can do this. You can see that the Hogue is slightly smaller, but then when you get to the tallest side of the contouring, the Doug Ritter is just a touch bigger, just a touch. So, sorry, getting these things out of the way. Let me give you something to look at while I'm doing that. I'm going to have to find a different color background for these dark knives. I did not plan accordingly, and the reason I didn't do a profile comparison, well, I'll go ahead and do one. I didn't want to do one because this is the Lotus scales from Flytanium, and they're contoured, so they're going to be a little bit bigger at the biggest point, and you can see, hopefully you can see, that the Jade scales from Flytanium, the Jade Lotus scales, just a touch thicker than the Manix 2. So my thoughts are, you know, the spring system on it, it probably needs to be broken in and loosened up just a little bit, because my finger actually hurts from fidgeting with this knife over the last few weeks. I try to, even when I come home, when I get a new knife, if I haven't carried it that day, I usually just go upstairs and grab something that's new, fidget around with it, you know, have it in my hand. If I want to open some packages or something that maybe came in, I'll go and grab it, because I really want to get a good sense of what I'm thinking I want to say about the knife, good and bad. A lot of people are going to be turned off by the fact that that spring's so heavy duty. Now, what I will say is while researching like break-in and trying to understand what I need to do with this knife if there is a break-in, and that trick about kind of pulling back the lock and then just leaving it, I guess you could have probably just done that, because I don't really think, wow, you could have just left it like that overnight instead of putting the pin in there. I'm just realizing that. I'm glad I didn't buy anything to do that. I was going to say there's actually someone out there that makes a lighter spring, like a one-step lighter spring than the factory spring, and I'm seriously considering getting that, because I feel like this spring is just a little bit too strong, and it doesn't really need to be, because really what's stopping it from moving, the spring is keeping that ball bearing in place, but the force is causing the ball bearing to want to go down into the pivot, because the spring's causing it to want to push down into the lock position, but the knife is going to be forced up into the stopper back here, this little metal cover stopper. I think the spring, they probably did it because they thought, you know, over time it's going to wear down, but it's going to take a while to break in. And you can reverse flick it. So when you're, you know, in a normal position, you can really get the action going. I didn't want you guys to think that I'm over here talking about it deploys very similar to the Able locks and the Axis lock, and not be able to see me do one versus the other. And then the Axis lock from Benchmade, I wanted you to be able to see that you can, once you get used to where you need to release the compression lock bearing lock system, once you understand where to do that at and how much energy you need in your motion to do it, it becomes kind of natural. My fingers kind of get tired because the jimping's actually not aggressive enough for me. Where I have issue here is like there's a lot more resistance with that bearing and that detent. So that might be a bonus for you if you're worried about like pocket deployment. It's going to be a lot less likely to happen with this particular system. Overall, highly recommend it. If this helped you in any way, if you're enjoying the content, think about leaving a like, Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I promise not all my videos are this long-winded. And turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any future content. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful week. Peace.